Okay folks, welcome to another episode of 4 visa questions in 5 minutes. Let's get straight into it. Question 1. Hi sir, I want to ask if I'm granted a 190 visa through the Tasmanian government, is it compulsory to live for 2 years in Tasmania or can we move? Okay, so the 190 visa is a visa that you are committing to live 2 years in the state that sponsors you, and the state government will get you to sign a statement to say that's what you intend to do, and they may even talk about you having to get a release from them if you want to move to another state. The thing though is the law does not require you to stay in that state. So as long as when the 190 visa is granted to you, on that day you intended to live 2 years in Tasmania, you are allowed to change your mind after that. You don't have to get permission from anyone. There's no condition on your 190 visa that says you need to stay in the state that sponsored you. So under the current laws, the answer is yes, you can move states as long as you initially intended to move there. And also under the current law, it doesn't affect citizenship. Now, we don't know if that'll change in the future, but right today, there's certainly no problem with that at all. Okay, question 2. The eligibility criteria for the far south coast in New South Wales for a 489 visa is 3 years experience, IELTS 8 and EOI of 75 points. If anyone has those, surely he will get a 189 visa. Okay, look, I'd have to check the criteria you're mentioning there, but what I would say from that criteria, if that's exactly what it's saying at the moment, is that they are looking for experienced IT graduates. Now that means the employers in that region have probably said that's what they want. Those people are going to be more beneficial to their companies and more easily employable. So the regional body is really there trying to help their region. So I understand why they're doing that. Obviously that is difficult for young graduates. They won't have 3 years experience. And so for that particular region, you're going to have to look at other options in different regions. So from the 1st of July, the chances are the 489 visa will reopen up in some other regions. Hopefully you're able to meet the criteria for one of those areas. And also the new regional visa, which we'll talk about later on in this question and answer session, may bring up some options for you. But I understand your frustration. Okay, question 3. Are there any changes for the spouse visa for PR? Okay, so the federal government have got a partner visa, which basically is a 2-stage visa process. If you're not in a long-term relationship, you need to go through both stages of that. That means after about 12 or 15 months, you get granted the first stage of your partner visa. Once you've proven it's a genuine relationship, pass your medicals and police clearances. And then the second stage is supposed to be looked at after 2 years. But in fact, the processing has blown out so much that the second stage is probably 3.5 years altogether in the process. Now, the federal government is probably breaking the law at the moment. The law says clearly in the Migration Act you cannot restrict the number of partner visas granted per year, because partner visas are such an integral part, I guess, of the family unit. People want to be living with their partner. And so the federal government seem to have been doing that in a sneaky sort of way. They've actually been blowing out the processing time. The partner visa has not got harder. The processing is not more difficult. The federal government's saying there's more integrity checks. That's garbage. Obviously, we monitor very closely what happens with our applications. There's no difference in the processing to justify that wait. What they've done is they've deliberately slowed down the processing so that less partner visas are granted per year, probably around 10,000 less than were last year, and that allows them to reduce the migration program by stealth when in fact by law they're not supposed to do that. So if there was a federal court challenge, I'm sure the government will be in trouble, but no one's really had the appetite to do that yet. In terms of changes that are being proposed, the federal government is at the moment going through a process where your sponsor needs to be approved first before you can lodge a partner visa. So that's going to further delay the processing. That actual legislation or the implementation of it is not yet in, but it's not far away. Okay, question 4. Not all the details of the new regional visa have been published yet. Can you give any more details? Okay, from what we know so far, the new regional visa from November 2019 will have 25,000 places. It's going to take a lot of places away from the 189 visa, and generally they're going to be split up into an employer-sponsored category of 9,000 places and 16,000 sponsored by the state government. There's going to be a lot more occupations, between 500 and 700 occupations on that list. So a lot of people who aren't able to apply for the 189 may well have this as an option. You get 5 points for being sponsored instead of 10 points under the current 489. The visa's for 5 years. You need to live 3 years in a regional area to potentially apply for permanent residence. From what we've seen from media articles, you're going to be able to move between regions, which suggests if your company's sponsored, you're going to be able to move between employers as well. Now, regional Australia is defined as the whole of Australia except Sydney, Melbourne, Perth, Brisbane and the Gold Coast, and it's likely to be introduced from November 2019. Now, that's a Liberal Party Conservative proposal, and what you need to remember is probably the Labor Party are going to be in power from May this year. So the question becomes, will they continue with this new regional visa? I think they will. I think for political reasons it makes sense for them. Even though I don't think migrants are creating the congestion in Sydney and Melbourne, it's really just poor infrastructure. Melbourne, unfortunately, the migration program is seen as an easy target by what I consider pretty weak politicians. And so the regional concept, moving people more into regions who certainly do need skilled migrants, I can imagine Labor supporting that as well. So I think even though it's a Liberal Party initiative, I think Labor will continue with it if they win the election. Hopefully, though, they'll give more places to the 189s than the current federal government is intending. Okay, folks, that's it for this week. If you want us to manage your visa application or you have any visa questions at all, just email us to migration@iscar.com and have a great week. Thank you.